right, so we are, and we will
There
begin
we are.
our briefing with the Housing Authority, Becky and Dan.
Good morning.
Good morning, how are you?
I'm good. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, but Dan's doing all the talking, so hopefully we can hear him.
Not so far.
No,
How's
nothing.
that?
You're cutting out really bad.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Much better.
Gotta love technology.
Well, go ahead when you're ready.
Start out, buddy. To been a long
Dan,
Dan,
it's not going to work, Dan.
last
and
year.
you're cutting out awful.
Madam Chair, can we give them the opportunity maybe to move to another time at the end of our agenda so that he can move to a location that has good cell or whatever range? Because it won't do any good if we can't understand him.
Right. No,
Yeah. I'm sorry, guys. I don't know what's wrong here.
well, Dan, why don't you work on your audio issues and we'll go ahead and ask the auditor to move forward with us. And then as soon as you're ready, Dan, send us a message.
Thank you.
Okay, well, good morning and moving right along. Good morning, Commissioner Trask. Good morning, Commissioner Netherland and Commissioner Shuni.
Right.
Hey, I wanted to follow up from our last conversation around the concept and suggestion around a Citizens Commission on Salaries for Mason County. And I'm coming back to you today with the findings from the homework that I've done and work that I've done with Administrator Neary and our HR Director Mary and some of the other counties across the state, and including our own state Citizens Commission on Salary. So I've got a presentation to share with you, and do that now. I'll try to just step you through it. And let me know when you can see the presentation if you would.
All right, there it is.
There it is. Okay, so I know there's too many words on this page, but I wanted to take the letter of the law straight from the law without any spin or interpretation. But basically, if and as we decide to move forward with this Citizens Commission on Salaries, it will be by your direction as our legislative authority in the county through a resolution. That commission is set up to be a 10-member commission, and you as a board would approve those 10 members. 6 of them are appointed by me or recruited by me as auditor through a random selection process of eligible voters, 2 from each commissioner's district. And then the other 4, if you drop down to paragraph B there, those other 4 are appointed by you as our legislative authority. All 4 have to have some experience in the field of personnel management. And then the law gets more specific that says one of each of those 4 shall be selected from 4 different sectors in the community, and 1 from the business sector, 1 from the professional personnel management sector, 1 from the legal profession, and 1 from organized labor. There's really no other criteria around how you would identify and select those members other than they need to be citizens of Mason County, and as you see down below, that they're not to be anyone who's an officer in the county, an official of the county, or an employee of the county, or an immediate family member of any of those. So just have to make sure there's no built-in conflicts of interest. Those board members would serve 2 terms. Randy, I know you and I had some question around what's the proper term of the commission. Some counties have their commissions set up on 2-year terms. Some have 4. The state commissioner recommends we go with a 4-year term that's staggered every 2 years. They found that to work best in terms of having some level of continuity from session to session within the commission, and you're not starting from scratch each and every time. So that was their recommendation. And again, just to recap, the piece of this that falls on the Board of Commissioners to identify and appoint the 4 members to the board with the personnel management experience. Hopefully you guys know great people from each of these sectors, and I'm not sure exactly how you would go about identifying them or recruiting them, but that's really up to you as a board. The commission, getting back to the details in the law, their recommendations become effective and are incorporated into the county budget without further legislative authority or action. Salary increases established by the commission shall be effective for the commissioners and all the others who fall under the span of control or the scope of work in terms of the salaries you want this commission to review, regardless of any other input. Salary decreases, if they decide to enact any salary decreases, are effective on incumbent commissioners at the start of your next term in office. And any increase or decrease is subject to referendum by petition of the people, and that follows the normal referendum processes and procedures. And the decisions by the commission stand on their own, and they're not subject to being superseded by any other statute or county ordinance. So just a little bit of background. I should have started with this, but our state adopted the concept of citizens commissions on salaries back in 1987 by constitutional amendment. It was the 78th amendment to our state constitution. And the idea back then, I think it stands today, is really to take the politics out of the salary setting process. And personally, I think anything that we can do to return power to the people is always a good thing. So my recommendations going forward.
Steve, before you do that, can you go back one screen? I got a question.
Yes, sir.
Item number 7, is that specifically referring to line 6, that if the people
Sorry, Brandon.
Yeah, if the people want to petition to not go with that this salary schedule, they can do it through a referendum petition. And then if they do a referendum, the measures under the section shall be submitted to the voters in the next. Is that what that says?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I should have been more clear about that, Randy. You're correct.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome. Anyway, in terms of recommended process steps going forward, our Board of Commissioners, you all would need to prepare a resolution that would charter and create this commission. And depending on the scope, if you want it to include other elected officials, as I shared with some of you independently and in conversations with Administrator Neary, there are 2 outstanding or existing resolutions setting salaries for some of the elected officials to other indices. Those would have to be repealed or retracted. And then we go through the process to select the commission members. Again, 4 from the board, 6 from the auditor, and then notify them. Hopefully they're all willing to serve. And then I'm offering to step up and schedule the commission meetings. I had originally proposed we start in September, but we may need to rethink that because we're kind of running out of time there. And prepare the actual meeting agenda and turn to Mary and Human Resources to provide the commission with a lot of the baseline information about comparable salary data, statement of work information about what each of the positions entails so that people can make, or the commission can make a good decision going forward in terms of their recommendations. So basically, I'm happy to, and this differs, small counties run their citizens commissions through the auditor's office. Larger counties run it through their human resources department. That's something that you guys would want to consider and decide upon. I'm recommending that we follow along with the state commission's recommendation of a 4-year term. And I just got off the phone with the director moments before this meeting started, and that's where she was giving me insight into setting up the appointments on staggered terms for purposes of continuity. No member of the commission can serve more than 2 terms. I should have covered that earlier. And then probably a more reasonable start target time would be first quarter of 2024. So that's what I have, and really goes back to you as a Board of Commissioners to finalize thoughts on the scope of the commission and set the process in motion. I'm happy to take a first cut at a resolution based on some of the work done by other counties if you guys want.
All right, any questions or comments, commissioners?
Yeah, Madam Chair, if I may, if we do this, I do think we should do it through the auditor's office. It's actually made specifically, it works best through that department for this. If we do it, I do think that it should, if we did it on a 4-year, that would be fine on how long it is, but it should not change yearly. That would not make sense. If anything, maybe we would have them look at adjustments every 2 years, just like we do for our non-represented. Have we set that up now to where we're trying to go through every couple of years for them? I think sooner rather than later, because it sure be nice if we had some of this stuff at least in the budget and put into the final budgets instead of trying to add it into budgets afterwards. I'm not really comfortable with that. That's where I'm at on that.
So I guess I have a couple of things. Steve, thanks for putting together the presentation, first off. In terms of the lot draw, what exists if somebody that you choose through the lot draw is unable to serve? What's your process for determining a hardship?
Well, I guess to answer the first question, my first plan of attack for the lot draw would be to extract a list in a spreadsheet, Excel spreadsheet of the registered voters from each commissioner's district, and then just use the random number generator built into Excel to pick a winner and follow up with a phone call. It's really up to them to, there's not really a consideration for hardship. It's really a matter of whether they want to serve or not. And if they don't want to serve, they can say, no, thanks, sorry, I'm not interested. And we move on to the next candidate from the random selection process.
Has there been, thank you. Has there been any thought given to, like a stipend similar to what we do for Board of Equalization? Any discussion about that to compel folks to serve on this?
I'm not aware of any county that offers compensation or payment to their commission members. I can do some follow-on investigation into that and get back to you guys.
And I guess just a couple of just really technical sort of concerns or comments, I guess, that I have is, we haven't set up a commission in a while. It's been a little while since we've done this, but just having some discussion around OPMA training, Public Records Act training, making sure that everybody who is participating understands that, that there are those, those requirements, whether they're the lot draw members or the appointees like we do for our other commissions. And then of course, the other sort of logistical thing is who's going to clerk this and keep minutes, and how are we going to maintain those? And so just being mindful of all of those sort of details that go along with it.
Right.
But I guess my other thing, and this might be maybe more for Mary than you, Steve, but just I heard from Steve's presentation that some counties do it through the auditor, some counties do it through HR. I mean, obviously HR has a huge role to play in this regardless, but what would be the downside of, or like what kind of a workload would this put on your office, I guess, and how do we factor that into our decision making, given that you are in the middle of negotiating a lot of other contracts with our represented employees, and just what your capacity is for taking something on like this on what seems like a pretty aggressive timeline?
I think that we have talked about it would be definitely a heavy workload. I would probably be the one that would staff it and work with, our compensation team on data collection for the commission. I do think that trying to get it off the ground this fall is probably a little ambitious.
And then in terms of doing any kind of salary survey, would you be using the same process that we used? I mean, we've contracted that out in the past for non-rep, and we obviously do that as part of the regular course of business for our represented. How would that process work?
It would be exactly the same. I would educate the committee on what we do, why we do it. I could even have the consultant come in and educate on market, how market works, best practice in the field. And then data collection is done, and then they would make decisions based on the data that's collected. So there would be a cost there for the compensation work.
And would it be possible for you to just kind of have that conversation with our third-party consultants to get a sense for what that cost might be?
Yep, I can do that.
And maybe even, I mean, it sounds like there's support to move this forward, but even just getting the study started so that the background is available based on their workload too.
And so just a thought too, would it be weird if we had the
It'd be really weird.
would it be weird if we had or appropriate if we had, that's a better word, if we had the auditor's office put it together but then had HR run it? Would that be doable, I guess? That way
you got to keep in mind a couple things. So the meetings by the commission are really once a year, or if we go with as Randy is recommending or suggesting every other year, and it's usually a 2-day meeting. So the first day they get set up and they review and approve bylaws and decide who's going to be their chair, vice chair, and secretary. That's all up to them. Then they're responsible for recording and publishing the minutes. And so it's really a pretty short burst of activity. But that's where it becomes really important for us to prepare them or provide them with the right information so that they can spend the rest of their time together making good decisions and presenting those decisions to the Board of Commissioners with confidence. It's not really intended to be an ongoing process in any way, shape, or form.
Madam Chair, I gave that same question you had and concerns you have some thought, and I want to tell you why I came down the way I did. No matter how it's put together, when it's all done, this will be a governmental issuance, so to speak. And it makes more sense to me after thinking about it that it goes underneath a governmental department or elected chain rather than a department. And if it does go under the department concept, then it is still the commissions. And I don't think that this should be the commissions. I think we should take it out of our house temporarily and let it be handled through another avenue. That's why I said why I did it, because I gave it some great thought. You know how much I respect Mary, and I have no issue with having her be in charge of all that. I just thought it was maybe wiser for us to take it out of the commission, put it under the auditor and under the act that we put together, a resolution. That's the commission's action. That's why I said what I did. And Steve did ask me about that originally, and I don't know that how I felt about it at the beginning, but I know after thinking about it where I landed. So
yeah, that makes sense to me.
I think the only ones that I ran into, Sharon, that had their commissions run through their HR department was King County and Snohomish County. Everyone else runs it through the auditor's office.
Pierce County runs it through Human Resources as well.
Oh, it was Pierce, King and Pierce. You're right, Mary. Thank you. I got my counties confused there.
All right, so do we want to have this come back so that we can get more of an idea about a timeline?
Personally, I'd like to see us go ahead and start it and just get it going. But I do have still one more question. Steve, I did not see in there, you and I had a discussion about how they're picked. I need to do some more research, or I don't really need to if you tell me different. Is there actually a provision in there that requires that it be done from a lot completely of the whole, or is there any leeway to allow for people to throw their hat in the ring to volunteer to be part of the names pulled?
Law requires it be by lot.
No, I understand it requires it to be by lot. I'm talking about by how the gathering of the lots are put together. Is there a requirement? Because I did not see that where it has to be from the public as a whole. Or can we ask for volunteers to come in, that are people that are already willing to serve, and do by lot from those? That's how it was set up originally with the first commission when I first looked at it years ago.
I have seen no provision in there for people to volunteer, put their hat in the ring for consideration. It was all about a random draw from the current population of registered voters in each commissioner's district.
Okay. If that's what you see, that's what I'll. Oh,
Mark?
I think that's where the real excitement comes in.
Mark?
So, Commissioner Netherland, I think that the commission has an opportunity to do that with the four that they appoint. So I think that you could kind of put out some criteria to say, hey, anybody interested in serving on this committee that has this experience that represents these specific areas within our community. Then the commission, for those four individuals that the commissioners appoint to the board, that process could be done like you're suggesting.
I just worry that he's going to have to make 10,000 phone calls of people that say no.
And that is part of the process.
That's a good conversation to have with the legislature.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think Administrator Neary has a good point. If you're looking for those types of interested participants and volunteers, that's a great way to fill those four spots from the four different sectors that the statute requires.
So I guess that also, the other question that kind of raises for me is, so I mean, you get to year 6, that obviously would constitute a quorum of the 10. You know, like, do we have to have all 10 seats filled in order to get started? I mean, because I think we have to build that into the expectation of what a timeline would look like.
Yes.
It just with our appointment process and people dropping off or whatever.
So Commissioner Schutte, it is a commission of 10 members, and there's no provision that says you define a quorum one way or the other. There is language in the law about how you fill empty seats within 30 days of a vacancy. So once we get the slate of 10 people identified and on board, we can set them in motion as soon as possible. Obviously, we're going to want to do a lot of prep work along the way so that we have everything ready to go once we have the 10 members identified.
So I just wanted to note that I had advised we loop Diane Zorin in on this conversation about how commissions are set up in the county. So we do it in accordance with past practice and what we've done and how we've done it in the past. So it looks similar and best practice. She has a lot of knowledge, sample bylaws, a lot of things already that are in place. We don't have to reinvent the wheel and kind of slow the roll a little bit to make sure that we do a commission of this size and importance correctly and with as much forethought as possible. And I also think that running it similar to how the Civil Service Commission is run, regardless of where you put this commission, an elected official is going to be impacted in some way, shape, or form. And so putting it where subject matter expertise is, to me, makes the most sense. And the staffing, the amount of time and effort it's going to take for HR. I don't think that fast tracking this is going to be necessarily the most effective way to get it done. I have some research to do with our consultant, and I think that I would be shocked if citizens are willing to give up 2 full days of work to come and do this type of activity. Maybe they would, I could be wrong, but I would assume that it would be kind of more of a how Board of Equalization is. They have a stipend, civil services and evening activity. And then once the heavy lifting's done, yes, we'd move into more of a maintenance mode. But I think trying to take into account realistically what citizens have the ability to give the county, and that we're very grateful and thankful for anything they can give, to keep that in mind would be really important. So those were just the concerns that I had at this point.
That's a couple good points there. I did read the not the bylaws, but the guidelines that apply to people who staff commissions and various boards. I think that's something that we would absolutely want to provide to this commission. I'd love to see other examples of bylaws for these types of commissions. I do have examples from other counties and have enough, I think, to prepare a good draft and template from their input. And then your last point, Mary, you're right. Some counties, people didn't want to participate. It was a real struggle for them to get volunteers. Other counties, they had a list of 20 candidates for each of their 3 commissioner districts, and they were able to find volunteers without exhausting those lists of 20. So it varies.
So this law would, or the reason that we have this new salary commission opportunity is because Thurston County requested it. Would you mind reaching out to Thurston County to see how they're establishing theirs? Because that it doesn't hurt to ask other counties for their ideas as well.
Yeah, I can follow up with Mary Hall. I put the word out to her with all the other auditors at the start of this, and she hasn't responded back, but I'll give her a specific call.
Are there also requirements for this to be done, like have a public comment throughout the process? 2 days, a 2-day meeting doesn't really seem like. I mean, not that you couldn't. I'm just saying it's a very small window for a group to meet, make decisions, and meet any kind of public comment threshold.
I did not see any provisions for public comment.
Is there anything that would keep us from doing that? I got to agree with the commission. I'm not sure I'm comfortable with the expectation of 2 or 3 days. I think, especially in the beginning, it's one thing when you have committees that are standing and they already have been through this. I would expect more, and it'd be nice if there was some possibility for public comment, at least at the beginning of each meeting, since it is a public meeting.
And I also think I'll just be upfront about it. I mean, I think the scope needs to be all the electeds, not just the commission. We had an inequity between the commission and the other row officers for a long time, where they were artificially capped at 95% of what the commission made. And I think that we've corrected that, but I think that's inappropriate. And I think if there's going to be a salary survey commission put together, then it needs to be all encompassing, with the exception of folks in the judicial branch that are set by the state salary commission, prosecutor, and judges.
I 100% agree with you, Commissioner.
So you're all taking that ride with us, so that when you get to hear how overpaid we are.
Yeah.
That's right.
And again, I'm actually not as worried about us as I am about them, because we locked them into us again. So we still have the opportunity to fix all that. This is a great opportunity for all those other electeds, where right now they're capped as well.
So here's what I propose. How about we get back together and in the meantime, prepare and coordinate with you guys on a draft resolution to create the commission. And then you as a board will want to take action to rescind or repeal the two resolutions that are out there setting salaries for elected officials. And that sets us with a fresh start for the commission's work.
I don't think you need to do that.
Yeah, either.
I think I think your presentation suggests that whatever this salary commission puts forward supersedes any existing state or county ordinance that would.
That's a good point.
That would govern it. So I would rather not tinker with what's currently on there if you're going to put this group together. If we just wanted to if we just wanted Mary to do a salary survey and we were going to take action on it, that might be a different conversation. But if you're going to do this group and it supersedes anything that's currently in place, I would just let that process play itself out.
That's an excellent point. Thank you, Kevin.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, I guess then with that, I propose pulling together a draft resolution for the board's consideration.
Look forward to seeing it. And again, just with it, whatever you put together, please try to make sure you include some type of public process. This is their money. We want to make sure they have the ability to have a voice in this, other than just the people that are selected.
I'll do some homework there and let you know what I come up with.
Thank you.
We have that flexibility.
All right.
Anything else?
Just what I was going to ask.
Thank you.
I did send you a message in Teams. If you could take a look at that, it's regarding the cemetery district. So if you could take a look at that, Steve, that would be great.
Okay, will do.
All right. Well, let's go back and try our housing authority. Are you there, Dan? Dan? Are you there, Dan? Well, if you're speaking, Dan, we can't hear you.
Says he's there, but I don't hear him either.
Yeah, he's not muted, so. Well, we can give them the opportunity at the end of our agenda, or
Yep, let's try that, and then maybe by then he can have his audio problems fixed. So Dan and Becky, if you could come back after our support services presentation, that would be great.
Just if Dan can hear us, just a recommendation for you. If you're driving a vehicle, I would find a location where you could stop, and if you can connect to some type of network, I think that would give you a more stable connection. So if you have a computer from the housing authority and you could go into the housing authority office and connect there, I think that may provide a better platform for this discussion.
He's supposedly at his house.
Oh, okay.
That's what I was told.
Well, we also have a line you can always call in. It's posted as well, an actual phone number, I believe. So that doesn't take any computer.
Okay. Yeah.
So Becky, it looks like that'll be closer to the 11:30 mark, but it could be earlier. So
Well, I have another meeting at 11:30, so
You
he will be shown if that's what happens.
okay. Well, Dan, can you let us know when you have a good connection? Diane?
I was going to suggest if he wants to email in or call us and give us his phone number, it'd probably be cleaner if we called him from the chambers.
yeah, either that or I have the number right here. He can call this number, but I don't know if he can hear us to call it.
No, okay, well, I can have Mackenzie from the chambers.
Well, actually, here he goes. He's signing on a second time.
Okay.
Can everybody hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, much better.
Okay, sorry about that, guys.
All
Good
right,
morning, everybody.
go ahead, Dan.
I just want to first thank everybody for taking the time to let me show y'all the presentation. If I can share my screen, I have a little slideshow for you guys. Can everybody hear me now? Yes. Okay. Sorry about that guy.
Dan, close out your other one, or at least mute it, please. You've got two up.
I'm trying right now.
There you go.
Good morning. Let me show you. Okay. Can you allow me to share my screen?
Yes, Diana McKenzie, could you help him with that?
I don't think there's any restriction. He should just be able to.
Okay. Dan, give it a shot.
Oh, it is not allowing me to share my screen.
Can you just walk us through it without sharing the screen, maybe? Walk us through it without sharing the screen, maybe?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, we know how long the delay is. We can hear it.
So we've been working on this housing authority project for about 2 years now. We've went through all of the apartments. Fairmont and Goldsboro are two that need the least amount of work. They're the closest to being repaired. Over the last 2 years, we found just numerous units that were above or below par, needing lots of work. Neelan Park has had dryer vents and vents vented into the exterior attic, and since it was built, that's led to moisture problems throughout the building, along with CPVC plumbing that is old and brittle to the point to where it just snaps off. Pine Garden is kind of the same issue. Vents were vented into the attic, causing moisture problems and making a lot of moisture problems throughout the units. So the housing authority has elected to get rid of Pine Gardens and Neelan and give those to people that have the funds to go in and fix them up and make them above board again. Once the sales of those go through, the housing authority will have enough money to continue on with the repairs of Fairmont Cove and Goldsboro Coves. And that will be the Mason County's main and only housing properties. So one of the biggest problems that I've seen and we've encountered is just lack of maintenance lack of oversight. And basically the management companies in the past not doing their end and just not keeping an eye on the ball. So I guess basically what I wanted to talk to the commissioners about is we've gotten the housing authority to a point where it's going to be stable. We're going to focus, like I said, on Fairmont and Goldsboro and make sure that those properties are all the way back to 100%. But moving forward, one of the main problems that we've seen is that it seems like it's a lot of involvement over the years for just board members. We've hired management companies to manage the assets, but a lot of times through the board, it seems like things fall through the cracks. And I was hoping that there would be some way that we could work with the county to develop some kind of policies and procedures moving forward, so the future boards may have assistance from the county in some manner. Becky and I have been working on policies and procedures and putting together binders of basically everything the housing authority board members in the future will need to know and look for. And it's a lot of just basic things of going and doing inspections on the property, board members going and every 6 months, picking random units and evaluating the units and just basically keeping an eye on the properties at a closer level.
And Dan, have you spoken with Mark or anyone regarding more county involvement?
No, and that's kind of what I wanted to meet with you guys with. The way we have it set up and what we've been working towards once we realized the problems at Pine Garden and Nealon, moving forward, if the commission would like to keep it like it is and just the two properties, I'm fairly confident that going forward with policies and procedures, the right training, that a board would be able to just kind of oversee those two. It's not the massive project it was with 3 different subsidies and 4 properties. But I do think that the housing authority and the county has a great option to maybe build off of, the housing authority to work with social programs to help, people downtown and try to come up with mutually beneficial situations.
Can I say something, Dan? This is Becky.
Yes, ma'am.
I think it's important that we have a paid director and assistant director and staff to run this housing authority. You cannot rely on board members to do it totally because, they change every 4 or 5 years. And so the past with Cascade Management and the big mess, everybody knows what a big mess it is. They basically only had a board, right? And they just let it go. I think if you have paid people to manage all of the day-to-day operations, that is in the best interest of these housing authorities. Due to them not being, excuse me, that not overseen and the management company and stuff, we have to sell 2 properties because we don't have the money, right, to fix them up. How is that going to affect the low income people in our community? I mean, we need more houses as it is, right? So I think going forward with just a board of directors is a big mistake. I think somebody needs, I don't know where the funding will come from, but maybe the county can fund to pay for the housing authorities positions. It's important to keep low
And
income
that,
housing here.
and
I'm sorry, I
that's one
didn't
of
hear.
the big problems. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say that's one of the big problems with how the housing authority is structured. The majority of all the income that comes from the properties goes to operation, repairs, and paying the management company. And after all that's said and done, there's pretty much nothing left over that comes to the housing authority.
Well, and legally we found out, right? The housing authorities can only take like $7,500 or something a year. And that's not enough to
From
pay staff.
USDA. Yeah.
Yeah. So the funding has to come from somewhere, or else this thing is going to totally fail. I don't think that, I mean, the past of what happened is a good indication that it didn't work. So something's got to change if you guys want to keep low income housing. And I think I'm very passionate. You can't tell, right? Because we need it, and we would need more units. You know, if we can get these mess straightened out down the road and show that Mason County Housing Authority is capable of managing their properties, who knows, we could build more.
Right, Becky, I share your passion for that. We definitely need more housing units for low income. So, Commissioner Netherland, you're a member, or you're not a member of the board, but you're an ex officio, right?
Mhm.
Do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah,
And after that, I'd like to hear from Eric also.
Yeah. One of my thoughts is, of course, we as a commission have been going through this for many years. Kevin will know because a lot of this happened before you came, Commissioner Trask. There was a lot of liabilities and stuff that the county could not, did not, and were recommended that we not take on because of the risk and stuff that come with us. Now, we have found a way in the past to pay for administrator. And we've done it through actions of the board to do something specifically and give money specifically for that. It's come out of different pockets, and we've even stretched out to set up to help them to get a contract with one for several years. So it's not like it's unheard of that we've paid for a administrator, but it is a situation where we got so intertwined in the beginning that there was possibilities of lawsuits and stuff like that. So that's why Tim has always told us to kind of keep a separate position. But I think we need to take it back to him and have that conversation what the county can and cannot do. But again, historically, we have found a way to pay for an administrator, but we were doing it temporarily with the hope that they would be able to utilize their funds to continue to pay for their administrator. And that was the thought in the beginning.
Okay, Eric.
I just had a question about selling those two properties. Would that be for low income? Would there be a deed restriction that they have to be low income? Taken away 2 apartment units in Mason County would be detrimental.
Yes, they will remain.
If they, can I finish?
Yes.
If they went market rate, that would just be something terrible.
They are going to remain low income. But we do not have the money required to rehab, but most of those places are uninhabitable. We have a $500,000 balloon payment coming up in February on Neelan Park. There is no way that we can pay it. And yes, they will remain low income. And we feel we have no other choice. We don't have $500,000 for Neelan Park. We don't have the money to make them livable. So, but they will remain low income, just like the group that's doing Neelan Park has many low income properties through the state, or through Washington State. So, and they have the money to fix them up and make them livable and to pay the balloon payment, et cetera, where we don't.
Okay, thank you. That makes me feel a little bit
And that was very important to me too, before I agreed to to it, that they have to remain low income.
Right, and I do
And
know that
I'd
that's
like
a
to,
passion for you.
oh, sorry.
So that's okay. Yeah, maybe what I'd like to suggest is that we have Commissioner Netherland, I'm gonna throw you under the bus here. Maybe it's not a bus, but have you included in the conversation with Tim and the Housing Authority to come back with more information, or?
Yeah, at your direction, I will go ahead and get a hold of Tim and we'll have some of those conversations again. Kevin hasn't spoken yet, so because he was there for some of that other stuff, I want to make sure that I'm being directed by both commissioners to go and
Right.
start to have that conversation.
Yeah, thanks. So just to be clear, are you telling us today that the housing authority has moved forward with selling those two properties, or is moving forward with selling those two properties? Am I understanding that correctly? Or are
Yes.
you still considering it?
Nope, they're moving forward. We've got buyers. I think Neelan Park's going to close first because Pine Gardens and HUD's a big joke. So it's going to take a while to get all that straightened out. But yes.
So did we commit any ARPA funding to the properties that are being sold, and if so, what's kind of the status of that funding?
I don't know. That's a Dan question.
Yeah, so over the last 8 months, some ARPA money has been used to fix those and try to make the ones that people are living in habitable, resolve any housing violations that were current in those properties.
Okay, Mark, are there any issues with that from ARPA's perspective? Just putting money into it and then them selling the asset?
You know, I would have to do some additional research on that, Mr. Schutte. I'm not sure about that. Is it being sold to a company that's going to operate it under the federal HUD program still?
Yes, for Pine Garden.
What about the one by Neil? Is that?
That was a tax credit.
It's a tax credit. And that's still going to operate as a tax credit also. So they will still be subsidized.
So I think our concern, and we've been working on this quite a bit, staff has been working on it quite a bit with Dan and the Housing Authority. The county did provide $750,000 of our funds to fix up those spaces that were definitely inadequate. And I think that was clear to all of the commissioners that are on this call, that it was needed. I think that the Housing Authority attempted to do that with internal staff to try and fix some of those things up. The concern that I have is just, really from an administrative concern and our responsibility to ensure that our sub-recipients of federal funds are spending those funds as they were contracted to spend those funds. So both Kate and Jennifer have been working very closely with Dan and the commissioners of the Housing Authority to try and capture the specific receipts associated with how that money was spent. That money we did provide all up front that they could actually manage. We did not set it up on a reimbursement basis. And I think that mostly was concern about how they were going to be able to get any work done. They didn't have any credit to actually contract with individuals to come do work. So the reimbursement process, I think there was a concern about that. So that's why the money was given up front. So that's kind of where we're at right now. And I don't have the current status of kind of where that is at, but I do know that our staff has been working hard to try and document that and make sure that we're in compliance with, and the Housing Authority is in compliance with the contract that we have with them.
And Mark, there's something I wanted to add out there for Becky because she wasn't part of the board to know. Aside from the $750,000, the county has kicked in at least another $250,000 over the length of time. Some of it was for roofing, some of it was for administrative. To be able to pay for an administrator for, I think we covered, what was it, a couple of years, plus some other things. So I just wanted to let you know there has been a lot of money expended out there for that purpose, even though we have no authority over the or ownership of the housing authority. Even though it's called Mason County, it's not ours. We just have the ability to appoint. So we have gone up and above to make sure and provide for the housing authority and help through this process.
Yeah, I mean, I think that bears repeating. I mean, we're into it for more than $1 million between multiple fund sources. We've been supportive of the housing authority going to the legislature for additional capital funding to do projects. I guess I'm just concerned, kind of big picture, about where the housing authority goes, how we provide housing opportunities for people who need it. And part of the expectation when we funded the executive director position was that this was that the goal there was to have a lot of this resolved, and maybe part of this sell is part of that strategy going forward. But I'm a little bit blindsided by that news today, and still have to process the sale of those properties. And but I think ultimately what's really important, and this is I think what Mayor Nisko was talking about, was where are we going from here? We need more units, not less. And so making sure that we're not taking people that are currently in a low-income housing or a subsidized housing unit right now, and that they're going to get priced out eventually, or even in the very short term. And so, I think this is a good opportunity for the county and the city to work together with the housing authority on, all those properties are within city limits. And so they have a vested interest in this as well. And I just, I want, for the money that we're investing in the housing authority, I want to see some return on that in the sense that there's an actual strategy moving forward about how to get people housed, how to maintain the properties. And I just can't emphasize enough how critical it is, Dan, for you, Becky, for you and your fellow board members to really work with our staff on the ARPA funding. The federal funding side of things is no joke. We don't want to get in any hot water because of anything that one of our sub-recipients is doing, and I think our staff has done a great job at trying to provide support. And so my other message and point that I really want to drive home is, when Kate and Jen ask for something, when Mark asks for something, when Commissioner Netherland asks for something, it's just really critical that that there's some organization on the housing authority side, and that those documents are produced and are able to be justified, because I don't want to see you guys get in trouble, and I don't want to lose that funding opportunity for any other subrecipient that we have ARPA funding out to in the county.
And Commissioner, I want to add a pat on the back for our staff. There is no other ARPA recipient that our staff has utilized their time in order to put all their records together, help them make decisions on whether or not it should have been ARPA or not, to sit down and actually fill out the paperwork and do the reports that are necessary for that to happen. So I want to give a shout out to both in our finance department. Mark, I hope you'll mention them by name here as a special thank you, because literally we've given them stacks of stuff and asked them to go through it and ask for, what do you think are the possibilities of utilizing this or utilizing that? Not to mention, as I said before, they've actually done the paperwork, and we've never done that with any of our other organizations that I know of. So a special thank you to them. Mark, do you mind throwing out something on that?
No, specifically Jen and Kate have been working with Dan and Commissioner Blush to make sure that we can find all of the appropriate expenses that were incurred that could be justified as spending off that $750,000. So that is a concern that we've had, and we've definitely tried to help with them. We've had another number of meetings with Dan. Dan has attempted to provide us with the information that we've asked for. There is still a lot of outstanding items. I'm not sure where those records exist, but Kate and Jennifer are definitely there to assist. So thank you, Commissioner Netherland, for talking with them and explaining the importance of working with our staff. Super important to do that, but there is still a difference between the amount of money that we gave and the amount of money that what appears to be left. We don't see everything, but obviously we do have some concerns about ensuring that they're all spent. Looks like we're seeing some sharing.
Yeah, I think Dan, I think you finally figured out how to share, except for there's nothing there.
So, Commissioner Netherland, you knew about us selling these properties, right?
Yes, I knew about selling
Okay.
I knew about selling the first one. I have never seen the offer or anything on the second, and I've never even heard it.
We talked about it in our not last month, not this month, but last month board meeting, and you were on Zoom.
Yeah, it was talked about, but I never saw the actual, because there was from what I understand, there's been an actual acceptance and everything. And that did not come to the board, and I've never seen it. But,
it was emailed to us all.
Okay.
Yeah, and Dad
Yeah.
emailed it to us all.
Yeah, usually I'll go through and check my stuff, but usually there's an actual process that goes through that in a meeting to accept it and to have a full discussion about that. And if that attended at a meeting, I was not there.
We sent it to the offers to our attorney, right? First. And he looked at it and came back with what he thought was the best. And then that was sent out to everybody for their input.
Okay. These things occur in meetings, but again, the meetings that I was attending, that did not happen. So I would have loved to have had a comment on those, just as I had on the other, but that's all right. It is what it is, and I'm ex officio anyway, so I have no.
I can look for the email.
Yeah, I have no vote
it to you.
on it, so just comments.
All right, so do we have proposed steps forward?
Commissioner, just one other thing, if you don't mind, before you do that. Dan, since we weren't able to view your presentation as part of your talk, would you mind forwarding that to Mackenzie, our clerk of the board, and then she can distribute it to the commission so we don't have to go back through it now, that we can review it and get that as part of the packet? I'll take the silence as a yes.
I'll tell him to do it. I'm not sure if he can hear you, but I can. Thank you.
Thanks, Becky.
Thank you for your time. Oh, there he is.
Great.
Thanks for your time.
All right. Thanks, Becky and Dan, and we look forward to further conversation.
All right. Thank you guys so much for your time.
All right. Thank you. And if you could stop sharing your screen, that would be awesome.
I will do that.
All right. Thanks, Dan. All right. Well, let's move on to public health.
Okay, good morning, commissioners.
Morning, Dave.
Okay, so we got a couple things we can go through here pretty quickly. The first one is the Opioid Abatement Council Independent Subcommittee, interlocal agreement. So the opioid abatement settlement required us to kind of sign in for like 3 levels of oversight. So we've got participating local governments. That piece is done. The state set up a regional subcommittee. In our region is through Cascade Pacific Action Alliance, their geographic area. That's basically done. What we're looking to do now is to make sure that we have an interlocal agreement with Shelton, so we have our own subcommittee off of that to do our own reporting. Basically, it allows us to just it's a pretty simple process. We can basically we track what we spend and then do one report. And what this ILA looks to do for us is to combine the funds that Shelton get with the money that Mason County gets. So it builds up our ability to have a little bit larger pot of money to work with. and kind of puts this kind of in perpetuity through the length of the opioid settlement, which I think is like 14 years. So it's quite a long process.
All right, so you'll just be taking that to the city next?
Yep.
All right, Mayor, you've been forewarned.
So we did have an agreement with them last December, but when we went back through the contract, it was a single time of combining the funds, and this looks to do it as we go into the future.
Sounds good.
I am supportive.
As am I.
Okay, so next thing is Melissa.
Morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
I have 2 items for community health. First item is a contract amendment for our Rural Communities Opioid Response Program, RCOR. We were granted a no-cost extension. The grant originally ended, I think it ends at the end of August. We were granted an extension through the end of the year, December 31st, 2023. Because during COVID, there were a lot of unspent funds left over. So we were able to reallocate to Olympic Health and Recovery Services just to continue the programming that we have in the jail. So we would just like to move that amendment to the next action agenda for approval. Are there any questions?
Good with me.
Perfect. Next item is emergency housing funds. So this has been briefed a few times in the past. I've mentioned that the Department of Commerce has allocated about $885,000 in emergency housing funds to Mason County. This is just for fiscal year 24. The board approved that contract with Commerce on the July 18th action agenda. As a reminder, these funds are to maintain current levels of housing subsidies and programs that we already have, to replace the sunsetting funds. So a lot of the emergency COVID dollars, those are going away. These funds are intended to just continue those programs. So as such, we have 2 contracts or subcontracts, one with Shelton Family Center, also known as the Youth Connection, as well as Crossroads Housing, to continue their centralized rapid rehousing program, support their emergency shelters, and do a little bit more street outreach. So our request here is for approval to subcontract with these agencies.
I like it.
Any other questions? Or
I see nods from the others.
okay, so hopefully we'll see that on the next action agenda. I think that's the 29th.
Sounds good.
Okay, and then our last item, Ian is not on here. At least I don't see Ian on here anymore. So I'll go ahead and brief that. And what we have is the Ecology Local Solid Waste Funding contract. The contract ended in June. There was some money that rolled over into this current contract period, which started July 1st of 2023 and ends in June 30 of 2025. So we're just looking to bring this contract into the next action agenda or action. So this is from, like I said, July 1st of this year through, I think it's 2025. So yes, June 30 of 2025.
Sounds good to me.
As well.
Okay, Commissioners, that is all I have.
All right, Commissioners, do we have anything for Dave or his staff? I have nothing. I just sent you a Teams message. I'm sure you got it because I heard it go ding.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
All right. Well, that's all I have. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, guys. All right, let's move on to Public Works, Loretta.
Morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Sorry, I was on a phone call. Here I am. All right, first up, commissioners, we have Mike presenting the draft annual and 6-year construction program and a request to set a hearing.
Good morning. So today we're going to request to set a public hearing for September 26th at 9:15 a.m. To execute a resolution to adopt the 2024 annual program and the 6-year TIP. Just to review some of the stuff on the annual program, we have 5 gravel road conversions planned out for next year, a total of about 11 miles. On the RAP projects, we have 4 RAP projects. One has actually been funded. Excuse me, one is actually out to contract but won't be constructed until next year, and the other 3 are funded. The STP project for next year is Camilchi Point from milepost 0.02 to 2.8, so all the way out to Bloomfield there. And then we got 3 bridges in here for work on. One is for county funds, is the Tahuya Post Office Bridge to raise that. We have federal funds for the Tunerville Bridge, and we have federal funds for the North Fork Goldsboro Bridge, which is out to bid right now, but won't be to construction until next year. We have 2 projects in the HSIP, which is Highway Safety Improvement Program. That's a guardrail bridge retrofit, which is also out to bid this year, but won't be constructed till next year. And then we have the Shelton Matlock project that for guardrail and shoulder paving. So other projects on this list that are funded here are Skoke Valley. That's the flat project for the dips. And then Uncle John's lower culvert is looks like we're going to try to do some construction next year. Johns Prairie intersection, we have a little bit of money in, and Razor Road extension, a couple other things. So I know that's kind of quick, but you can have time to get into it as detailed as you want.
Commissioners, a couple of things to note. The local match on this $12 million annual construction program is about 21%. So great job leveraging all of our grant sources, Mike and team. And Mike, the Skoke project, that's delayed a bit, right? Even though we show and our programming funds next year, it sounds like permitting may hang us up for a couple years.
Yeah, yes, I built this before we found that out. That's true, absolutely.
Any questions, commissioners, about the proposed draft, or is there additional information we can provide?
Looks good to me. Commissioners?
Yeah, I don't have any questions or comments at the moment.
Good. Thank you.
All right, great. And then just in terms of logistic, commissioners, this hearing will be the same day as the hearing that we are making amendments to this year's annual construction program. So we'll do the amendment first and then have the hearing following for the adoption of the next annual construction and 6-year program.
That sounds great.
All right. Okay. Then next up on the agenda, commissioners, is we are requesting the board to approve an extension to the solid waste export contract with Regional Disposal Company and to set a special meeting to execute that extension. And as you know, the current contract expires on the 26th, and we had hoped to conclude our negotiations, even though it was a very aggressive schedule. And we've been working with Mason County Garbage to that end, and they've been incredibly responsive, and negotiations are proceeding. but we just simply won't have it done prior to the expiration. So we're in the position where we need to extend this contract. Republic Services has agreed to an extension under the existing terms of the contract and for a 1-year extension period. And to do this, we will need to set a special meeting. Commissioners, do you have any questions about this?
So the special, so August 26th is
a Saturday of
a
all
Saturday.
things. We're not asking that you set a meeting on Saturday.
Oh, good.
Good, right.
So do we have an idea of when we want to have this special meeting? This week?
Yes, this week.
Yep, nope, when this week?
Oh.
I know it has to be this week.
Sorry. Commissioners, that would be per your calendars, your availability.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, Diane, but don't we have to have this noted 24 hours in advance?
Yes, we need at least 24 hours out.
So most likely Wednesday, is that available for commissioners?
I have Housing Behavioral Health Board from 9 to like probably 11, 10:30 or 11, but.
Will you be doing that here, Commissioner, or will you be there?
Yeah, no, I'll be here.
You want to meet here at 11:30?
That would work for me.
Yep, works for me. So 11:30 on the 23rd.
I will make sure Mackenzie and Diane are aware. Well, Diane's on.
And so this subject is to consider extending the hauling contract, correct? That's the point of this meeting?
Hauling and disposal, Diane, yes.
Okay. We'll draft a special meeting notice and we'll email it up to you, Loretta, to make sure it's worded correctly.
Okay, and I'll double check with Kelly. She may have already drafted that, Diane.
Okay.
So if she has, we'll forward that over to you.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. Thank you.
So Loretta, the bridge, I'm getting a lot of people contacting me. Is the bridge finished? What are we doing there?
The bridge is not finished.
Are we putting a new deck over the top of it?
So Mike is, oh, there is Mike, meeting this afternoon to discuss next steps.
They're looking at several options. One is to do a micro mill, which would take about 1/8 of an inch off to try to smooth the deck surface up. That's what they're required to have, is within 1/8 of an inch. The other suggestion by me is to run the numbers for load calculations to actually put 1.5 inch overlay on it, which would be further protect the rebar in the first place, is what our whole point is. So we're going to have a meeting here about 1:30 and talk about that, discuss that. It'll take them a little bit of time to do some calculations if that's the route they go. Yeah, we'll see what we can do.
But we're going to be doing one or the other. The deck is not finished, and they will have a better quality transportation feeling as they go over it. Okay, I will.
I don't know. They want speed bumps. I mean,
yeah, no, it's all right. I just can't believe how many of them. But I'll tell you what's beautiful is so many of them are also saying, "Wait a minute," instead let's just say thank you, because they're also trying to keep this thing in place. So there are both, but I need to reach out to some of them.
Yeah, and we've been in communication probably with the same folks, Commissioner. Yeah. All right, and then the last item, Commissioners, that we have here, you received, so Ecology has been reviewing new permittees for the Phase 2 NPDS permit. And I believe they have old information. Commissioner Schutte was listed as chair way back when, so they sent a letter saying that we will not be considered as a permittee for the NPDS permit. And commissioners, if you want to send a reply to Ecology, I have prepared a draft if that's of interest.
Could you send that draft over and we could take a look at?
Absolutely. I also shared the draft with Health Department, Dave and Ian, to see if there are some little notes that they would like to include about efforts the Health Department is taking and continues to take to protect our water quality as well. So once I get those back from Ian and Dave, I will definitely shoot it over.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. And I believe that is all that we have, commissioners.
So on the August 29th, we had the public hearing for the solid waste long haul. Is that
Yes,
being continued or to an
it's
end?
very likely that will be continued, Commissioner.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, anything else for us, Loretta?
I believe that is all on our end. Mike, I don't know if Richard's on. Mike, Richard, any other? Mike, were there any schedule changes that we had listed in terms of, I know we've been having some slight adjustments on our closures and where work's happening. But it's happening. Old Belfair Highway is about complete.
Yeah, OBH will be striped tomorrow. We're out there. You might hear a little bit about the driveways, some asphalt driveways. We're actually out fixing them because the contractor wanted a little bit more than I was willing to pay. So, but we also did some dig outs on Homestead, Mill and Fills. We're out on Trails Road right now doing the same thing. Homestead and Lakeland are still on schedule for the September 5th that week to come in there and pave those. So we're finishing up a lot of things. So McGreevy and Shelton Matlock will get chip sealed later on this week, and then a little bit of next week. So we're finishing up with quite a bit of things. We did cancel the Sathop Coquitlam culvert. Was scheduled this week. It was just, we just have too many irons in the fire, so to speak. And so we're going to hold that off. We do have the structure, and we do have a plan in place to do some repairs on the existing pipe to get another winter through it. So, but guys are doing a great job.
Yeah, they are. It's neat to see the improvements that are taking place. I mean, they're absolutely noticeable. All right, commissioners, anything for Loretta and her crew?
Me.
Nope, thank you.
All right. Thank you, commissioners.
Great. Thank you, guys. All right, Mark.
Well, good morning again. So the first item I have before you is a CGI digital video project. So I briefed the board on this a little while ago. So we are actually coming up on some dates here where they'd like to come out and shoot some videos. The CGI is in partnership with NACO. They provide this as a free service to the county, documenting the different areas that we have and the different opportunities that exist here in Mason County. There is some opportunities for us to provide either an individual that could talk about the county and kind of open up each segment. And so I wanted to bring that before the commissioners to see if any of you might be interested in doing that. I'm also interested in if you have specific areas that you would like to be highlighted. I've been working with Diane a little bit on maybe some of the recreational opportunities in here in Mason County that we want to highlight. So some of the tourism type things, would like to highlight some areas up in the Belfair area as potential development areas. And there's another item on the list to talk about that further down our agenda today. But I think it would be nice to actually have video, so they can do aerial video, they can take still pictures, they have a group of people that will come out and do that with the county, so we just need to show them the locations that we want in there. And so if you have any specific recommendations for those, would love to hear them.
Well, Commissioner Schutte, didn't we already agree that this was the responsibility of the chair?
No, we did not.
I thought we did.
I felt like we did. I mean, I
I
felt
know.
like I said, if this is how everybody wants to spend their time, then I have no problem with it. So I kind of felt
Yeah.
like
No.
there were other people that were really
And
interested in taking this on.
Yeah, I remember even saying she is the chair at this time, and because she is, that definitely falls on the responsibilities of the chair to host such things.
Okay, so the responsibility of the chair means delegation,
Yeah.
right? Right? So
Well, you're going to have to delegate to Commissioner Netherland because I'm unavailable the 13th, 14th, and 15th of September.
Actually, so am I. I am, aren't I, Mark? I'm not just making that up. I actually told Mark.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Commissioner Trask.
No. So I did talk to Diane about this, and I said I have concerns over having certain people in there because I reviewed and sorry, Mayor Inesco, I looked at the one a couple of times that they did for the city, and it still has a previous mayor on there that's no longer even seated. And so if their timeline is that long, I think it would be better just to have areas, beautiful areas, and not faces, because faces tend to fade.
So they can actually do a professional voiceover, so we don't have to have an individual get up and speak.
I like that idea.
Like I said, I'm unavailable, as Kevin has pointed out. So is he. So again.
Well, I would love to get recommendations that any of the commissioners might have for areas that you'd like to highlight here in Mason County. So please let me know, and Diane is also available to let her know. And if you don't choose, then we get to choose. So
yeah.
So that's all I had on CGI.
Okay, so we can just send you our ideas.
That would be great.
Okay.
Yeah, and Diane, did you have anything else on that you'd like to talk about?
No, I'm good, thanks.
Okay.
So we should have Diane do the video since she's going to do
no,
it for a
I
long
too
time.
I am busy all of September, so that will not work, but thank you.
Give it a shot.
Yeah, I feel a retirement coming on. Thank you.
Oh, great, Kevin.
No, don't talk like that.
Kevin, no more out of you.
You've been delegated to knock it off.
So the next item that I have on the list is bringing back to the board our North Mason building revision. So this is the North Mason Fire Authority's old administration building that the county is going to occupy. Our first occupant is going to be Mason County Sheriff's Office, so we can relocate them from their current leased facility into this leased facility. And we need to make some accommodations to properly house the Sheriff's Office, and then have space left over to provide other services that we want to. And I know that the commissioners have asked and are very interested in the specific services that we're providing up there and what we plan to provide up there. I do not have any specific items yet as of this point in time. Our focus is really the transition. So I need to have the Sheriff's Office out of the facility that they're currently in North Mason by November, so that we can do repairs and upgrades to that facility before the end of the term, which is December of 2023. So I'm on a little bit of a timeline on this one. Our staff in facilities is going to be doing all of the work there. So want to make sure we get them some plans and allow them to move forward. We have discussed the different options with our planning and permitting department, and we'll be going through the necessary permits to get that work done. But just need to kind of provide them a specific action plan of how to move forward. So I believe that all three commissioners had the opportunity to go up and review the area and look at the different options that are out there. Commissioner Trask did provide me an alternative that she was interested in, and I've included that in your packet. And so I wanted to open it up for the discussion with the board. I would like to highlight that there is a budget of this 75,000, but that also includes some work that exists outside of the buildings. So we have an area that we'd like to fence and make it secure for storing items that can be stored outside up there.
Right, and the fencing, I believe, was the most expensive part of the changes, right?
Yes, yes.
If we were to continue with number one, which is my preferred, that would utilize the costs would be taken up by the rent supplemental for up to 2 years for the majority of those costs. There is one thing that I had just talked to Sheriff Sperling about that we hadn't considered when going through it, but it's an actual easy fix. On the first option, if you will look, you see the two bottom green lines that show.
Hold on a second. Let me see if I can share my screen to these.
Are you talking about the firewalls?
Yeah, where the firewalls are. There's when you were there, you saw that there was also a weight room that exists in that facility. Oh, right, stop right back down there. See that? Where he's right there, where he has that cursor. That bottom room, we can put one door there. Go ahead and go back down, right there. We can put one door there into the weight room, and that would allow them the opportunity to have a video room for interrogation, questioning, and the like, without any real costs. They'd be able to put that in for the future. That's something that they hadn't considered. They can try and use that other room that's being built to handle the testing and stuff like that, but it'd be easier for them if they had a separate room that they could just take people in for interrogation. The only thing it would take would be a door and a small wall put into that one location. They can access it through already existing doors and everything. So the cost would be minimal. Just something to keep in mind that had come up in the conversation I had with him the other day. Other than that, as you know, he's completely happy with this, the way this is set up.
So just to kind of talk about some of the specifics associated with this plan, and hopefully you can see my cursor, but it actually takes this area that I'm kind of highlighting and makes it.
I can't see your cursor, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh,
it's a little one, and I don't want to. I don't know if I can. Oh,
there you go.
Maybe I can highlight.
Yeah.
So kind of this space right here, and that is then secured space that would be utilized by the sheriff's office. So then I can also kind of scroll down here to the other option. So I apologize, but it's a little bit different. So this is still the front of the building here. If you can see I'll start to highlight this area. So this is the front of the building. They would access on the left-hand side. And then this area, oh gosh, I'm not going to be able to highlight in corners. Sorry. This area here is currently just an open space. So this was the area that the fire department utilized as a common area for their staff. And so in order to do this, in order to provide sheriff's office staff the security that they need, whatever area that we determine to be occupied by the sheriff's office, we have to be able to secure it from everything else. So there would be some modifications that would be necessary in terms of walls that would go here, potentially a door here for access to the kitchen, a door here that would provide, and then possibly a door here. Gosh,
we would have to have a door there at minimum to provide access to that back bathroom for anybody from the public.
That is correct, because then these two bathrooms that are up here would definitely be in a secured area.
Yeah, if anybody wanted to go to the bathroom, we'd have to walk them all the way to our facility.
And here is the other where the other bathroom is located. So yes, individuals would have to go back. What I don't have laid out yet for this plan, and I apologize, is where would I put the BAC room and potentially an investigation room if they need an investigation room.
Yeah, that's one of the things he just mentioned that he's hoping to have. That's what I was. But he said it was also for videotaping, so I guess that would be the investigation room was the same thing. I'm just using a wrong term.
I stopped sharing so you wouldn't have to watch me move my cursor around.
I appreciate
Let me know if you'd like to see something else.
Well, I've got it on my screen, on my other screen too, so. Commissioner Shooty, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, so Mark, have you put together any kind of staffing plan for other offices so that we actually know what the usage might be?
So that part of it, I think that there's have I put together a specific staffing plan? No. I do think that there are opportunities for the county. I know that has been discussed quite a bit in the past. I know that the current facility there, I'm hearing that in the past there was opportunities for other departments to locate kind of an additional space up north, and that never came to fruition. I do believe that with the increased development that we see happening up north, and the increased population that we will see up north, that we definitely will have opportunities, and I would like to reserve some space in this building to provide those services. I have received a request from, Auditor Duenkel to provide some voting services up there. I would imagine that those voting services would be temporary in nature. So, 3 or 4 times a year, they would have the ability to come in and register to vote, or obviously a ballot drop-off location. There is an opportunity for hoteling type stations to be able to schedule individuals to be up there and to meet with individuals in that area that would allow our staff to actually coordinate in-person meetings that we have with potential developers. I think that they are probably more sophisticated when we do commercial type development, that they do a lot of stuff online. But if we have individual development occurring up north, then we would have the ability to meet with those individuals in some of those public areas that we would have remaining in that building, so that the citizens up there wouldn't have to drive all the way down Shelton to receive those. But specific staffing plans, I don't have those at this time, Kevin.
Yeah, so keep asking for this. I don't think that we are, I don't, when we talk about the future, we just need a plan. And I just don't think that there's any clarity. It's super hard to make a decision about how to utilize a building based on hopes and aspirations, when we could actually have a legitimate conversation with other offices about what they might want or see as sort of the demand from the community up there. I am 110% supportive of providing space for people to utilize and access county services at this building, period. What I'm not comfortable doing is building out a facility that has no plan or detail associated with what that future or what those services might look like. And I understand that we have the ability to buy down some of the rent over the next couple of years, to do some of the build out and tenant improvements. And I think that's really great. And it shows a good partnership with the fire authority. But we have almost 1,000 square feet of office space and bathroom space that can be manipulated to meet the needs of the sheriff's office, and still allow for DEM to have space up there, and still allow for space for a common area that is unsecured for other people other county employees that may utilize that building, allow access for the public to those services there in those hoteling stations that you're talking about, and maintain the flexibility of the storage area in those apparatus bays that I think is highly valuable to us. As I mentioned when we talked about this a month ago, we've spent several $100,000 over the past couple of years buying storage space for both the sheriff's office and for facilities, in general storage for the county, and we know what a premium that comes at. I did go through there with Sheriff Sperling. Sheriff Sperling, has his opinions and has his beliefs on the best way to utilize that space. I respect that. I just don't want us to be in a position where we're building out. We're going to have to renovate the whole other side of the building anyway if we want to put other county offices or staff up there, because it just needs to have that refresh with carpeting and the painting and all the things to make that usable for our staff anyway. So like at a certain point here, those savings vanish without a plan. And so I haven't seen enough develop over the past month to really be confident that Commissioner Netherland's preferred alternative is the right one. I haven't really taken a look at what Commissioner Trask is putting forward, but I do know that we have 1,000 square feet of flexible space that can be utilized and get those savings from the rent while still allowing a lot of space for the public and for DEM when those plans come together. So I'm not I guess I'm really not helping anybody out here, but I just really haven't seen anything change in the past few weeks that would indicate that we're any closer to having any kind of plan for how to utilize this building other than what we've seen over the past several weeks.
There may be a moot point, but as if you don't mind, in establishing the way the first recommendation was, that establishes to get the sheriff's office everything they need. There's one section there that if you want to keep it for storage, that's not part of the regular daily work anyway, so you only be taking over one if that's what became necessary from the commission. But as for the other office, I'm sure you can appreciate that it also makes sense to know what we have to offer. If you have office space that just needs to be carpeted and painted, then people can start to make the recommendations how they'd like to utilize it. For example, when you went in there, I'm sure you saw the one room has something in the middle of it right now, but actually has tables all the way around to be able to utilize for the building department to open up blueprints and put things all around utilizing that room. As for emergency management, they would already, in the other proposal, something we haven't talked about, they're already scheduled to use that far back one, the joint use one with the community, but the wall space would all be set up with emergency management, as would some of the storage in the back. But there's other departments that might be able to utilize some of those spaces, but we have to tell them we have space for them to utilize first. We don't have that right now, and we can put together a plan first, but if you have that whole site, it's just waiting for them to come and fill it up. And I think we also are under the gun for time, if I'm not mistaken, Mark. And we get this done, we get them moved. We're not expending any money on that side until we decide what we're doing, and we put together a plan to utilize it for the best that it's built for, and they don't cost much more. That's just my opinion, and I hope we would move forward soon.
I guess at the rate we're moving with putting together a kind of a staffing plan for that, it might be a while before that's actually utilized.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that is a positive.
Right.
I know that, but at the same time, that is the reality of it. The first ones that are going to need are going to be the first ones that are in there. Having an office space, not knowing which one to put it in, but having an office space that's designed specifically for meeting the public when it comes to the building department and having that area in there to look over blueprints, that just seems like a no-brainer issue. It wouldn't hurt to have a corner, because now they have two different people that are kind of covering two areas, would maybe have an office in there. The health department, it's up to them on how they decide to do it, but we used to take in water permits and other permits there, so having somebody that can work in the front and utilizing some of that space would be helpful for the whole community. And then having the sheriff's office right there next to it, they can put it into an inbox or something if nobody else is there. It just seems like a great opportunity to start to fill it in. If you don't have the space, you can't fill it. You got to have the space first, and this gives us all that space to use.
It definitely allows us to segregate the sheriff's office operations that have the specific security needs that they need to put in place in order to maintain their accreditation, as well as their just security around their operations, to segregate them in a different area. 100% hear what you're saying, Commissioner Schutte, in terms of the lack of plans to utilize the other space up there. I would like to think that is something that we can put on our 2024 goals when I'm sitting down with the departments and offices to say, specifically, let's highlight some things that we can do in this area. And here's the space that we have available to do it in. So what specifically things can we do, and what does that staffing plan look like? I don't believe that it would be adding new staff. I would believe that it would be providing a location for staff to be up there on specific times and dates.
So is anybody asking for more time, or what do we do? Because I know we're on the deadline for having to get it done before the other lease is up, or should we be asking for an extension on that lease?
No.
No, I was asking, but
sorry, I thought I was muted.
No.
So can I ask Kelly how long his crew would need?
I'm gonna say I need at least probably a month there and a month to fix up the other one when I'm done. And that's not the fencing. We'll get the fencing people up there and get a bid.
Okay, so the fencing doesn't have to be done right then.
No, we can do that as it goes.
So the guts of the building is where our focus is, right?
Yep.
The other thing that, Kelly, now that you're on with us, the other thing that I really was kind of confused or concerned by was the walls in the apparatus bay to build out the Commissioner Netherlands plan, I guess we'll call it for the sake of this discussion. They don't go all the way up to the roof or the ceiling. Rather, we're not doing any kind of ceiling work. We're just going to kind of leave that exposed. Can you walk through what like the heating and cooling and all that
the
stuff?
partition walls will go all the way to the top. The bay walls will go from the floor all the way to the top, filled in the bay doors. The one that doesn't go all the way to the top is that little 10 by 10 interrogation room, if that's what you want to call it, in BAC room. That's just a little 10 by 10 open space. They wanted it like that when we talked to the sheriff, so the guys in the next room could hear what was going on in there. So if they needed help, they didn't want a ceiling or nothing on it. They didn't want carpet, they wanted the concrete floor. I talked to the sheriff extensively with everybody and on my own. I says, I need to know that you're okay with this before I can even give a thumbs up or anything to you guys, because I don't want the sheriff to come in here and then say, oh, by the way, we need this much more, or we need that. And in front of all of you, the sheriff said, that's it. That's all we need. So that's where I am with it.
And so from an HVAC perspective, not doing anything to the ceilings in there, we think we're going to be able to heat and cool that.
We have heat there, but I think I would need to put in a ductless system that could heat and cool that bay system from the partition wall over to the visitation room, or to the volunteer room, which already is under a heat pump on that side. But just that one area, we're going to have to do something, because I guarantee you it's going to get cold in there in the winter. I guarantee you it's got a little gas Resner heater that probably isn't going to be the most efficient and the best thing to smell when it's going on. So I do believe we will need a ductless system. Then they're fairly inexpensive nowadays, and we can put it in the wall and frame it right in. And I think that's the easy part. The lighting's already done. They don't need no more lighting, they said. I got to throw a door into a weight room area and put some security touch pads on there so we can keep it secure from the other side.
So remind me again, Kelly, or Mark, when do we have to have the others out?
I got to have the others out. Our lease is up at the end of December. So we have to be done, and that other building needs to be painted, recarpeted, cleaned up, the BAC room taken out of it, or whatever Mr. Byerly would like us to do there. If you'd like us to keep that room, we would keep it, but we're definitely gonna have to go in and do a paint job. We're gonna have to probably go in and do some flooring in the bathrooms and just do carpet throughout the place. And we can do that all in-house too.
So what you were saying, when you were saying two parts, you need a month to build the building, then we move them out, but you need another month to bring the other building back to its natural state, so we don't pay.
Correct, that's what I'm saying.
Okay, I got you. And I didn't catch that in the beginning, so that makes sense. So you need a month to build, but you need a month to fix the other one before the lease.
Correct.
So we have to have a plan to you by October so you can do it in November to get them in there by December, so that in December you can fix up the current place.
That is bare minimum, yes. I mean, I would love to have it by September, but yes, absolutely.
I would agree. Kelly's team is amazing, but with the holiday season that occurs in November and December, concerned about that. And I'm also concerned about being able to move all of the equipment from the existing sheriff's office into the new facility. I need to make sure that I get our IT group up there to make sure that there's a seamless transition. So I would say that I'm getting nervous about the timeline, and we need to make a decision to move forward.
I definitely also, along with that, Mark, not to interrupt, but I also need to get permits in that take whatever before I can even start. So I do gotta, and I've got the permit team on board with us to help us draw whatever we have to draw to get them in, because we definitely want to make sure we're doing everything right and dot our I's, cross our T's, and go from there.
What are you expecting for time needed for the permit process before we could start even building?
I'm thinking at least 3 weeks. I think that's what, I mean, I don't know, but I would say probably 3 weeks to get it in, to get it start. I do not believe we have to do a change of use. So I think it's going from governmental to governmental. I don't think we have to do a change of use on that. Just have to show what repairs and stuff we're doing in both scenarios. There really is nothing structural that we're putting in, either plan 1 or plan 2 or plan 3. What was kind of my plan. There's really nothing structural. It's all partition walls and stuff like that, taking out some walls that are in the bathrooms to make them handicap. So structurally wise, I don't think we have nothing to permit, just some, adding some partition walls.
Can you, so I'm not, I mean, if there's consensus between Commissioners Netherland and Trask on how to move forward, that's fine. But short of that, I'm not prepared to make a decision today. So 2 things, or I guess 1 thing really. Kelly, you mentioned a third plan or another option. Can you highlight, can you provide us kind of what both Commissioners Trask and Netherland provided us with that alternative? And then I will also do the same. I don't want to miss the opportunity to provide some highlighted floor plans for my colleagues to look at. So if we can.
I have some blank plans I can bring over to you so we can sit down and highlight some plans. I can show you plan 1, plan 2, and then I did just a rough plan at the very, very beginning. But yes, I can bring them over so you can see them and we can share them with everybody.
That'd be great.
Commissioner Sherry, there's something I want to clarify on that first plan. That is not my plan. It was a plan that came together by meeting with the sheriff and everybody else. And I wanted to clarify something. We may not have had as clear of path as we should have. I never would have done it, except for I thought I was given the responsibility. I had asked Mark to go to the commission and ask me. I said, I don't want to step into this unless I'm told that it's, my responsibility to do it. So somehow there's been a miscommunication between all of us. I never was jumping in front of you. I held off until I was told that it was okay to do it on that behalf. So, and I want you to know it wasn't Randy's plan. I went through the sheriff. We just tried to find the best ways to make things work, using as least amount of money as possible, and granting the best use of space as possible by just walking in there together with their needs.
So,
Sure, yeah, I guess, yeah, it sounds like there was some kind of communication breakdown there. Obviously, here we are at the 11th hour trying to figure out how to do this. I don't know whoever wants to take credit for the plan we'll call it the green plan. I guess maybe that makes people feel better. I don't think that that's the best use of the space or the best use of the money. And so I'm not an architect, I'm not an engineer, I'm not a designer, but I think it's wasteful to leave the entire right side of the building potentially untouched when there's office space and facilities over there that can be utilized, by the sheriff's office when the alternative is building out additional space that also has a function, I think, is storage and would allow for other uses by county government as well. So it's not about assigning blame or anything like that. We are where we are, and I think we'll just keep working on it.
So do you think that we can get this done by Monday? Or
Well, we're gonna have to, so I'll drop everything else and get on this.
And I will get with you, Mark, and Kevin, and we'll go to other plans.
Yep.
So, Mark, when you say you're going to drop everything and get on this in the next week, does that also include having a conversation with your directors about a high level idea about how they might provide services up there?
Yes.
Great.
All right, so I think we have a plan. To make a plan.
We don't have a plan. We have a deadline. We got to create the plan to get there. So.
All righty.
Okay. All righty. So thank you, Kelly. Appreciate your support on that one. Let's see where we're at. Oh, so the next item that I have on the list is there's a letter that I'm asking the commissioners to sign for the Recompete Act Coalition letter, basically. So this is something that has been worked through the Mason County Economic Development Council to pull together leadership of all the governmental entities within Mason County area and highlight areas that we want to signify or identify as potential opportunity sites for recompete funds. And what this letter does is it basically tells all of the individuals that are that look at this that we are working together and that we are focused on how do we provide the necessary infrastructure to these areas. Oh, I see Jennifer Bria there. Jennifer, do you want happy to let you discuss it?
You were doing such a great job with the synopsis of it. So basically what it is it's giving us the opportunity to show the Economic Development Administration in our application and through their review and scoring process that it's not just one individual, that we're defining this area, our region of Mason County, as a partnered, pulled together plan with many different entities on board. So even if they go through and read it as Mason County, they're seeing it as the coalition of entities that have come together through the planning process, through the framework process, and through the final application submission process. You kind of just nailed it in that. That's what this letter is specifically saying. It also allows us to be able to, when we submit the application, have the other entities register and submit with us. So it kind of brings us all together in one single application connected with all of the different partners.
So Jennifer, in the letter, it says local leaders, business owners, utilities, and others. So will you have signatures from all of them signing this as well?
Yeah. Yes. So it will be going out. We've got our stakeholders meeting on Friday. On Thursday at 11. That's going to set up the work that the consultants have done around the framework, around looking at the different projects, how they're all going to connect. So yes, anybody, especially those who end up having a project in the application, will be coming on as a coalition partner. So it's not just, it won't be just Mason County signing it. It will be private entities, it will be nonprofits, it will be PUDs, city, county, everybody. I want everybody that's engaged in this process to be signing on to it.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you pointing that out, that it's a cooperation, it's a team.
Exactly.
Working together to get this done. So I support it.
Yeah, me as well.
Yep.
Excellent. Well, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Jennifer.
Mhm.
So that's all I had for you for support services.
All right, any administrator updates?
I don't.
Okay. And then down here we have commissioner discussion to review our calendars. And they've got some dates on here of when some of us will be out.
Actually, oh, sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Just, I'm actually here on the 30th, October 30th now.
Okay.
And then Commissioner, what dates were you gone in October? I don't see that on here.
Well, I'm all because it's only one day that will be in conflict with our schedule, and that one day I will be able to attend. It's a briefing via Zoom.
Gotcha.
And I guess I could clarify too. The most of the days that I'm out, I'm at conferences, so I could probably participate at virtually as well. So I guess if we want to go ahead and just keep our meeting schedule, that'll work for, it sounds like all the commissioners.
And again, if we know that they're not going to be able to attend, or maybe that on a regular, especially the regular meetings are the most important, because we have to be here with two of us here to make sure to take action. Just know that if that is the case and there's any question, we should still probably try to make it a softer schedule that week in case that commissioner cannot actually get the cell phone or computer access that they would hope. Life doesn't always work the way we plan.
Well, mine will be conferences, so I'll have easy access, but they should have great Wi-Fi there. All right. Any further discussion?
I have other commissioner discussion if you have a second.
Sure.
Okay, I know I'm not a fan for creating laws, and anybody that knows me knows that I try to stay away from that. But I'd like for the commission to consider something. We've had, for years now, we've had a rash of people going up and stealing the copper and everything out of our communication systems. When they do this, they're leaving our people without any ability, not just to call 911, but we have people up there that are on monitors that are actually connected, being monitored up there. Not to mention, life alerts and things like that. These people have put our people in such great risk. I'd appreciate if you would consider us talking to the prosecuting attorney about bringing forth a law that would make it a specific gross misdemeanor for the taking or destruction of communication utilities for up to a year, and try to make it as strong as we can for close to being a year. If you do that, I don't know that it'll have the effect that we would hope to scare them away, but at least if we did make it that strong or somehow stronger, even if we could just keep it from happening 1 out of the 5 times it's happening, it would be successful. So I'm not asking for you to put that law into place right now. I'm asking for maybe the opportunity to speak with our prosecuting attorney's office specifically for the creation of a law. I don't know that we've ever done that here, so I needed your input and see what you thought, because I didn't want to waylay you.
I'm good with that. I think we should have the conversation.
Yep, I agree.
Okay, I'll get a hold of Tim and we'll start it. Or would you rather me just go through you, Mark?
Sorry, I was just looking at setting up some meetings. to go through me to coordinate the discussion about creating a new law?
Yeah. Or would you rather me just call Tim and, because I don't want to overstep you.
When would you like it done by then?
Well, it's sooner rather than later because they just hit him again. Literally, they just, after we had our discussions about it, they took the copper up into Huya again.
Oh, wow.
And those people are without for a long time when this process happens, depends on how much they take.
I'd be happy to, yeah, sure. We can talk about it and I can coordinate with our prosecuting attorney's office.
Well, if we do pass, I'd love to get these utilities to actually put a sticker on there saying New Mason County law. I just hope we can just slow it down. That's all I had.
All right. Anything else, commissioners? All right. Well, it brings us to the end of our agenda.
I'm Chair, move we adjourn.
Second.
All right, we are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you all.